Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to Mr. Cantarino.
Thank you very much. Hello everyone, and I hope that you're having a good day. We have had the chance to listen to a number of speakers who are experts on the field, and I hope that that is causing that your mind is spinning a little bit. That's a very good thing. Let it spin. It's very healthy. So with my session, I want to introduce you to IBM's understanding of the current context. So that is context of the workplace. And also, I want to introduce you to IBM's strategic approach to, let's say, inject in your HR function the means and the capacity to take your current influence from business results to the next era, to the next stage. So we refer to that as building a smarter workforce, creating a smarter workforce. And let me anticipate that creating a smarter workforce is not a static switch. It's not an on and off. It's more a journey. It's an evolution towards a goal, right? So what is smarter workforce? So smarter workforce is about thinking entirely different on how to activate your employees to drive business results, right? So it's thinking about how to attract the very best talent and retain the very best talent, and then how to empower those employees with the very best updated, current, meaningful information. So that's the best of learning. And it's also thinking about how to transform performance management from a perhaps static thing into a dynamic, analytically driven process that looks at organizational outcomes. So with smarter workforce, what you're trying to do is change your core processes in order to leverage the incredible talent that you have in the organization. That's the overall concept of smarter workforce. I wanted to bring a couple of points of reflection in the room. So the question that I'm asking is, do you believe that today we live in the best of times? It's a difficult question. I believe we do. I believe that if we take 5,000 years of humankind and we compare that to the last 50 years, I say these 50 years is a golden age. And I'm not really saying this out of naive optimism. I mean it with trends and data points. If you take, for example, world poverty, last 50 years, we have reduced world poverty more than in the preceding 500 years. And when we think about world stability and world safety, it is very difficult for us to think this way because we do have human tragedy around us, by the way, near us. But if you think about death by conflict has been reduced in the last 20 years by 50%. And if you go back 50 years, the reduction is 75%. And if you go back with the comparison on the 10 years around World War II, that reduction is 99%. If we think about income for a second, and we think about income from a white type of manner, so material standard of living. So you take an average individual today, and you pay attention to the dimensions within material standard of living, in reality, the metrics are going to be higher than those of the kings and sultans and emperors that we had in our countries 300 years ago. If you think about life expectancy, if you think about access to health and medicine, access to culture and knowledge, ability to communicate with others, even entertainment. Thinking about education for a second, the institution that provides these numbers is telling us that we have actually almost doubled the amount of years of education after 15 years of age. And we have done that in a period between 1960 and 2000. The forecast for 2060 is 10 years of education after 15 years of age. We are human resources here. We know what an average is. And we know that average like this is built with a whole number of people reaching this very, very interesting amount of years of education. It's not about two people having so many years. We think about people for a second. So, well, what we are building, and I think all of us are building right now, is a cosmopolitan ethic. And there are very interesting signals. Like, for example, in 2011, for the first time, there was 1 billion people that went cross borders for one reason or another. So that's 1 billion people. You know, total population might be around 7 billion. We've read some of the articles lately. Studies in the US are showing that there is 1 out of 6 marriages, which is actually a mixture, but a real mixture. So a mixture of race or color or ethnic origin, that's 1 out of 6. And I suppose that I'm an example there, because I'm Spanish, originally from Madrid. I'm married to a French woman. We met in the UK when we were working there. Now we live in Prague, in the Czech Republic, and we have a 4-year-old daughter. And when I look at my daughter, I don't see that she looks at people by things like nationality or gender or race or language. She is absolutely exposed to all of that. Now, that's an example of a 4-year-old, but you know, a previous speaker was talking about a son who was 15 years old. So if we start thinking a little bit about youngsters, and yes, we talk about Generation Y, Generation Millenniums. By the way, except for Mert, is there anyone here who's younger than 20 years old? Okay, all right, you might want to cover your ears because we're going to talk about you. But we've read the white papers. We've seen the research. We've covered that in this session. So we know what's coming. I actually had the opportunity to see it for real because I have gone back to university this year for the first time in many years. I was interested in a particular course given by the New York University of Prague. First day, I am there. It's a computer lab. And I have on my left-hand side a young lady. She's a perfect millennium. She's just perfect. I had to refrain myself, or can I ask you a few questions? The teacher started to give contents, and I took a look at her computer. She was on Facebook, right? I saw it. She was there, and it gave me a bad impression that what the teacher is giving is actually very valuable. So it was multivariate statistics with SPSS. It's a very heavy stuff. But then the teacher, after a while, gave us an exercise. And you know how it works now in the uni. So go to the repository, download the data file, pass it by the software. We're going to interpret results together. And she finished the exercise before I did, which was kind of scary because I've always felt comfortable with a computer myself. But the way she's thinking is completely different. She was not willing to invest time on something that maybe she already knew. So she was just waiting for the right moment when she would have to pay attention to get a deliverable done. And it made me think about my learning. Like, am I doing the right thing on learning? Or do I really need a visual, right, on a system that it's easily accessible for this person to find a tag that says, go to the exercise of this t-test means or this discriminant analysis? So I want to prepare for that. In this context, what we find is that the definition of work is changing. So we go from sustenance, then we go to sustenance and satisfaction. This is probably what we've lived. But what we have today is that work is a lot more part of an individual's identity, which means for us in human resources that concepts like employee value proposition and employee engagement are as crucial as they have ever been, and the curve is not going down. So what makes a workforce smarter? A workforce is smarter when there are these 3 very fundamental aspects. So one aspect is behavioral, because the world is going behavioral, and we are witnessing that. So we believe that behavioral science, behavioral measurements have a key importance in your HR strategy. The second is technology. But technology not just as driver of efficiency. We know that that happens. When you deploy an interesting software, you are deploying efficiency. And I've done a lot of HR delivery in my life, so I care for that. I want to be efficient in the way I deliver my HR programs. But we're going beyond. We're saying technology has to be the fuel, right, that allows for this collaboration. And the last one is analytics that actually combines the previous 2. So it's not only that you're bringing information and that you have the technology platform for that to happen in an efficient way, but you can actually bring to surface insights that before we really didn't have access to. this is how we differentiate in Smarter Workforce. When we work with our clients, and we have a pretty amazing client base, with the incorporation of Kenexa as a company into IBM about a year ago, we are bringing all this behavioral expertise into something that was a strong point. So we differentiate with science, behavioral science, mathematical science, expertise in process and data. And we have a portfolio that is a circle, and I wanted to bring a little bit more details on the portfolio to just flag where diversity has a very, very direct connection. In general, diversity is part of a smarter workforce. In reality, when you reach the smarter workforce, diversity becomes a true business as usual, right? But here, when you think about employee engagement survey, it's not just having the policy and the intelligence around diversity, it's also about measuring the way you're doing it. Employee engagement survey can help you there. Leadership and workforce assessments, you really want to know, but you want to measure it with technology, behavioral science, and analytics, how well prepared your leaders are to understand the benefit of diversity. Sourcing, strategic sourcing, we do a lot of work with clients on helping them on employment branding, and diversity is an aspect that has to be part of an employment branding, because that's what people that we are talking about are expecting from us. Business technologies, platform, it's interesting because we keep talking about social business, and my question today is, when are we going to stop talking about social business to talk about business like that? And finally, learning and assessments, which is, you know, the way to go very, very deep into certain aspects of the diversity dimension in your organization. So this was my presentation. I really appreciate your time. Thank you very much.